Next slide. Thank you very much. Next slide. Yeah, and of course, sorry, the last one is prejudice against the Englishman. They all thought an Englishman coming in to do the work was actually a bit of a threat, because the Anglo-Saxons were highly organised, and they don't always like to be organised, because with organisation comes responsibility. Just a friend of mine, Stuart Lancaster, I work with a lot. Culture comes before performance is something that he works from, and the club had reached the playoffs 5 out of the last 6 years. Every time they'd lost in the playoff, there'd been a big clear out of players, a big clear out of coaching staff. They spent more money than anybody else, and it was always somebody else's fault. It was the Romans' fault. It was the foreigners' fault. It was the coach's fault. It was somebody's fault. And I've just put under there, the club had a reputation that it was always going to fail. The joke in Italian rugby was there are 3 things in life you can count on. One is death, you will die. Second one is your wife will cheat on you, and the third one is Colorno will lose in the playoffs. That was the Italian joke doing all the bit as we approached the playoffs. That was on all the social media, putting pressure on everybody. So how did I approach it? Well, a lot of rugby clubs know what they do. The Simon Sinek stuff was really interesting to me. Start with why. Everybody knows what we do. We play rugby. How we do it at a rugby club, we're organised with good coaching and good club organisation. But the key to me to pull all those nationalities, all those different people together, was to find something common that we all believed in, that we could all agree on. So I had to find a why. So just go to the next slide. And after a lot of talking as to what people really wanted from the club, the dirigenti, the directors, board of directors, this is what we came up with. We're not going to be the best rugby club team in Italy, because we haven't got the budget for that necessarily, but we're going to be the best rugby club to play for. With the staff in the restaurant that we have, it's going to be the best rugby club to visit. The experience you come here is going to be the best. And every person, from a player, from an under-6 coach, felt that they could contribute to that why. That's why we're here. We're going to be the best rugby club in Italy to play for, to work at, and to visit. And providing that underlying vision pulled an awful lot of people together. Not everybody, but it pulled an awful lot of people together. Just go to the next one. I spent invested a lot of time with parents, with players, how we're going to do this. And there's lots of stuff we can talk in general about, in specifics about behaviours and how we want to be perceived. But we decided on our values, which were enjoyment. Enjoyment is not fun. Enjoyment is satisfaction from a job well done sometimes. It's also fun. Respect, trust, family, massively important in Italy. Honesty and humility. That was how we were going to do it. So we've got the why now, and we've got the how. Then the what we do, the rugby, becomes quite simple. If we go to the next slide. We categorise the rugby for the performance teams, the top 10. Fiore, Rossi, your job, the rugby, is we win. That's your purpose. You're professional players. We need to find a way to win. Our academy, okay, coaches, you're learning to win. These players need to learn how to win. Some of the skills, how to apply the skills to learn to win. Under 6s to under 12s, learning to play. Under 14s to under 16s, learning to train, how to take information on. And then for the kids, for the minis, just learn how to play, learn how to enjoy the game. So what I tried to do was provide clarity, why we're here, how we do it, and then for each sector of the club, this is what we do. This is what defines us. This is our job. And for me, I think that provided clarity for everybody to understand what the club was trying to achieve. And when we had problems, when problems arose, we could look to these areas. If it's personal, somebody doesn't treat a player with respect, well, we can go back to our values, respect. Is this making us the best rugby club in Italy to play for? It was a tool for questioning players and player behaviour. It was a tool for questioning parents and parent behaviour. But above all, it was a tool for questioning ourselves every board meeting. And if we just go to the next slide, because I think, how am I doing for time?
You got 5 minutes left, or 4.5 minutes left.
Okay. plus questions or?
Yeah, plus questions. No. Yeah, plus questions. Sorry.
Okay, so I just tried to put down the 6 lessons I learned really quickly. It's easy to focus, and it's human nature to focus on what makes us different. We all had, everybody at the Rugby Club had something in common, and that was we're here to play rugby. So we had to focus on what we'd got in common. Now, clearly, people play rugby for different reasons. So I had to understand the motivations. The reason to play rugby in Italy is because football is played by a certain sort of athlete. Over here, they consider them softies. Volleyball is played by another sort of athlete. Basketball, very, very popular. Water polo, very popular. If you choose rugby, you choose it to prove your how tough you are. That was very often the motivation why people played. So I had to understand, but it's different for a Kiwi or a South African. They play because it's culturally part of their DNA. Understanding the motivations of each and every one was really important. Establishing the why, I think going into another club, that would be the first thing. Just establish the why, make sure, plaster it all over everybody, make sure everybody understands why we're here. It has to become part of everyday language, why we're here. Learn the language was something that I struggled with. It took me 3 months really to get into being able to have, point 4, lots of little conversations with people. They drink a lot of coffee here. I'm a coffee addict now. Informal meetings with such a wide group of people, informal meetings are much better than formal ones. You can talk to a squad of 20, 30, 40 people, and the messages just go all over the place, given the different language, given everything. Prep what you're going to say with each group of players, each individual, before you go into a bigger meeting. The work is done before, lots and lots of little conversations. If we're going to talk about values, you have to take the board with you. Okay, you have to take the board with you. It's a whole club approach, and it has to be led by the board. But when you're lucky enough to go to a foreign country, it either reinforces some of your previous thoughts, or it counteracts them. It's actually reinforced my coaching philosophy, which has been for the last 10 years, coach people, not players. And again, that investment in individuals, selling them the vision, not selling, convincing them, helping them understand the vision. That investment of time in individuals is huge for success, wider success. Thank you. That's what I've learned in my 2 years here, really. 3 years, but COVID cut it in by 2/3.
I have myself muted there. Brilliant. Thank you very much. That was really, really interesting. Is there any questions from the floor or anybody that's been watching that they have for Nick? Any questions? So I have some questions. Bella.
Okay.
Bella, were you about to ask something? No, just unmuted. Okay. Yeah, I have some questions. Sounds like identity was a massive thing that you were trying to create, like a sense of identity there. I was just wondering, when you approached that, did you have a framework in mind for doing it, or was it something that you were looking at the situation and you thought this is kind of what needs to happen based on what you were seeing? That makes sense.
It was a process of making it manageable for me. I need to understand something, and making it manageable for me was the first thing. It clearly, everything I'd learned in England was, working at the RFU was put to one side, because if you can't communicate effectively with people, you have to find a common way of communicating. Identity was huge, and I looked at a lot of things. Some I went with, I suggested, and were knocked out. You try and look for something that you can build around. Parma was where Mussolini was captured, and the partisans were against Hitler and against the Italian fascists. It's a big area, a lot of partisans, more partisans died fighting the Germans than fighting with the Germans. And that's a point of pride here, but politically not particularly sensible. So we didn't go down that route. There were other options we looked at to try and forge an identity. But one thing's clear, you can't microwave it. You have to have something that builds, and you have to live it as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I keep going as well because I find it's really interesting if nobody else has got anything else to add. But did you face any problems when you were trying to create this identity or this culture change? And if you did face any problems, what did you do to sort of mitigate or control for them?
So a lot of people, what I found, I don't think it's an Italian thing, I think it's all over the place. A lot of people nod and agree with what you say, but then their behaviors are different. And you have to be mindful of the values yourself when you confront this. But one thing I did learn is that you can't let things go. If there is an issue and somebody's behaved not particularly respectfully, maybe not insulting, and I would include myself on this, not using respectful language around religion to certain people, just a little nudge back to true north is required. And it's much easier with a little nudge and a little word than it is waiting until behaviors have gone away and it's a bigger nudge back to true north. I use that analogy a lot. You've got magnetic north and true north. And it's very easy to get dragged when you're busy or something towards magnetic north. My job as director of rugby was to keep nudging people back towards true north once we've agreed what true north is.